What is up, Waffle Gang? I too hope you are well. My name is Mark, and today we're checking out some more r/mi the butthole. If you'd like to skip the initial waffle, timestamps are in the description and along the timeline below. But if you are new here, please consider hitting a like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too, as it really helps out our channel. Now, just a huge thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here. I know I say it all the time, but I can't express how much it really does mean to me. It really does mean the world. So thank you so much for doing you. Please continue to be you. And let's crack on with today's stories. Much love, guys. Now, our first story comes from Mum's Bracelets, and it's called Am I the Arsehole? Agreed to meet my dad to reconcile, but I was really there to get my mum's bracelet that he stole. My dad and I, 25 male, aren't close, and I was never interested in having a relationship with him. He was the type of guy that was out all the time with his friends and never home. My mum divorced him when I was 12, and it got ugly. Sometime during the divorce, we came home and stuff was missing. Not his stuff, by the way, because that was cleaned out when he left. One of the stuff missing was my mum's bracelet that she kept in a small box under some stuff in the closet. This bracelet was super special to her. Her parents were toxic as fuck, but my mum was really close to her English teacher / mentor in high school who was like a mum to her. Her teacher gave her that bracelet as her high school graduation, and my mum kept it all these years. My dad knew she treasured it, and who else would look in that specific place to take only a bracelet when there was other stuff in the house? She knew it was him too, but it always played dumb. The divorce was finalized, and we didn't see my dad after that. My mum never got it back. Last June, she got COVID and didn't make it. I was broken over that, still am I guess. Glad at least me, my sister, and my stepdad have each other for support. Around October, my sister told me dad wants to talk to me, so she gave me my number. He apologized for being a shit dad and asked if we can meet to talk at his place. I was ready to straight up say no, but then I remembered he stole her bracelet, and maybe this was a chance to get it back. I've asked my sister before to push him about it since they talked, but she only asked him once and left it at that. I decided I could handle one visit just to see if he has it, so I told him I'd hear him out. So yeah, I met at his place. We caught up on stuff. He told me his sorry story about being immature and too focused on stuff that wasn't important than being a dad or whatever. I ended up bringing up the bracelet and how important that was to me since my mum's not here anymore. He still kept trying to act like it wasn't him, and I said the only way I'd consider having a father-son relationship is if he just stopped with that and gave me my mum's bracelet. He finally gave in, and thank God he actually kept it instead of throwing it out. He apologized for taking it and knew it was being super childish. I was just happy to have it back, but mad my mum didn't get it before she died. I never guaranteed my dad a relationship, I just said I'd consider it, but I already made up my mind I don't want anything with him. It's been months since our meeting, and my sister is pissed because my dad is disappointed I haven't talked to him. Says I was a huge piece of shit for making him think we'd reconcile. My only goal was getting the bracelet back, and I wouldn't have talked to him in the first place if it wasn't for that. So that's why I wonder if I'm the arsehole. My sister is biased here, says was little they split and has a different version of him. Nah, he doesn't sound like a good person at all, and I think you're totally right to be cutting about your life. And even after you went to this meeting, you were still saying no and denying it, and only backed down where you eventually gave him an ultimatum. So absolutely not the arsehole in this situation, in my opinion. But Son of a Gunderson says, not the arsehole. He sounds like a terrible person, and the fact that he initially tried to deceive you about that shows he hasn't improved much, if at all. Also, I'm sorry for the loss of your mother. That's awful. Glad you have people close to you for support. And Slimy Grapefruit says not the arsehole. He would have given up the bracelet right away if he was truly remorseful and wanted a fresh start. He's still a crap human. You don't owe him anything. And Family Drama says not the arsehole in the slightest, and my heart breaks for you and for your mum who never got to have a treasured possession back before she died. Your father is a barefaced liar, vindictive. He suddenly did this for no other reason than to hurt your mum. And on top of that, a manipulative person, turning your sister against you while you're both grieving. You had every right to get that bracelet back, and you only had to be slightly dishonest because there's extreme blazing dishonesty. I'm so sorry that you're going through this. Hopefully your sister will grow and gain more empathy for your perspective with time. And Delightful Absurdity says, not the arsehole, I'm sorry for the loss of your mum. You owe that man nothing. You did what you had to do to reclaim your dead mother's property, and you didn't break your word to him in doing so. You were definitely not the arsehole for this. And Single File says, as someone whose dad just stole all of their dead mother's jewelry and pawned it, not the arsehole, he stole that bracelet for no other reason than to hurt her. Why does he think he gets to be a hero now? And now, I turn this one to you guys. What do you guys think of this situation? Was Opie an arsehole in any form for what they did or not? Let me know in the comments below. And just a little pre-warning before this next story, it does mention fertility issues, and I know that could be a sensitive subject, so please feel free to use the timestamps if you want to. That's what they're there for. So yes, just please feel free to use them. And our next story is from Spiritual T640. Am I the arsehole for screaming at my sister and telling her she is not actually pregnant? I, 35 female, am pregnant with my sister's 30 female child. My sister has some fertility issues and is not able to have a safe pregnancy. I offered to carry the baby for her and her husband. I am now currently 6.5 months along and everything is going well. Once he found out I was pregnant, my sister made the decision to live like she herself is the one pregnant. I found it odd, but I didn't see an issue with it. I understood that she is going through an emotional time. I mainly thought this was going to be something just between her and her husband. I was wrong, as she has begun to act pregnant in her daily life. At first, it was just small things like having her husband run out to get food as she was craving it, but developed into things like wearing maternity wear. She also gets annoyed if I talk about my cravings or pregnancy symptoms around her. These things don't bother me much, I just think my sister wants to feel involved. Today, my sister wanted to go shopping to look at baby things since the stores have reopened in our area. The day started with her getting angry whenever sales staff would talk to me. I would explain to the salespeople that my sister is the mother whenever it was needed. After a few stores, we arrived at a baby retailer where she wanted to make a baby registry. At this point, I was extremely tired and wanted to go home. I told my sister this, and she promised this would be the last store. I must have looked exhausted because we were waiting. The salesperson brought over a chair for me to sit while the registry paperwork was done. When she brought it over, she did say something like, "Here's a chair for Mum." I didn't correct the salesperson this time and just sat down. My sister told me to get up and give her the chair after I sat down. I asked her why and tried to explaining that I was tired. My sister berated me by saying the salesperson said the chair was for Mum, as if that she was supposed to sit. She said this was her registry appointment, and how dare I act like it was all about me. She said she was the one who was the expectant mother and that she needed to sit down. I told my sister that yes, she is going to be a mother, but I am the one that is currently pregnant. I snapped at her that she is actually not pregnant and does not get how exhausting it can be. I told her I'm trying my best to appease her, but she is being ridiculous. My sister began to cry that I was shaming her for not being able to get pregnant and I was making fun of her. I tried to defend myself and tell her that's not what I meant. She wouldn't listen and ran out the store. Everyone in the store was staring at us. They were looking at me like I was a complete monster after hearing what my sister said. My mother says I should have just let my sister have the seat. I know this whole thing must seem so small and stupid because it's about a chair. I don't know if I'm an asshole in this situation or not. Now let's face it, this is about way more than just a chair in this situation. And it really does sound to me that like sister does need some kind of therapy. Something's clearly just going on in her mental state right now. And I'm no doctor by all means, but just reading the post, it's clear as day, right? And this may be really strong and harsh to say, but I'd be concerned that you could be passing this baby to her if she's currently in this mental state. It's just very concerning to me. But Lissy says, not the arsehole at all, but it sounds like your sister may need therapy. And Hitnit replies that, and I agree. I'm sure at some point she'll be cutting you out of her and the baby's life. She'll be seeing you as competition and worrying that the child will love you more. She won't ever be able to let it go, and may be terrible to the child if they remind her of you. Please ensure that you have a chat with her husband and your parents prior to handing the baby over. She may suffer from her own version of postpartum when the baby gets here, and she faces the enormity of it all. And Wild Borch says that this is horrifying. Not the arsehole. Your sister needs therapy. I'm scared about the baby's future with that mother. And Bookish says, not the arsehole. Your sister is behaving terribly towards you and needs to get a grip. She should not have done a surrogate pregnancy if she was going to have such a problem dealing with the reality of it. But now that has happened, it is not okay for her to deprive you of a seat when you're the one who is pregnant and exhausted from a day shopping with her silly self. She's acting like a child who wants to be the center of attention at someone else's birthday party. She is the mother, but she is not the one who is pregnant and needs to stop acting like she's the victim because of that. You were not acting like it was all about you. You just wanted to sit down, and you were not responsible for what the salesperson said. Instead of whining, crying, and criticizing you, she should be doing everything she can to ensure that you are healthy, safe, and comfortable, for the sake of the well-being of her baby. Pregnancy is physically demanding and can be dangerous for the pregnant woman, with potential problems for the child if you develop complications. You are literally putting your body on the line for her sake. It is an incredibly generous gift you are giving her, and now she needs to show some gratitude and stop acting like an ass towards you. And OK Yellow says, I get your sister may want to live the pregnant life during this period, but the anger and fits is irrational. She might genuinely need to talk to a professional about this because my sister began to cry, saying that I was shaming her for not being able to get pregnant and that I was making fun of her. Seems like she's incredibly and understandably insecure about not being able to carry. It's hard, but that doesn't give her the right to lash out at you. She has no right to take away the experience of being pregnant away from you, though. It's her kid, but you're the one who's pregnant. You're allowed to talk about your cravings and sit down when you're tired. Not the arsehole, not the arsehole, not the arsehole. And Born a Buckeye 75 says, I'm speaking as someone who's been through massive fertility issues, primary and secondary infertility, miscarriages. I think your sister desperately needs help. There's no shame in it. I got help too. She needs to mourn not being able to carry a child. I worry that she will want you to carry on and let the baby think she was the one pregnant. She is using third-party reproduction, which is totally fine, but problems arise when she doesn't come to terms with that. When you're in the delivery room, is she going to be upset because all the attention is on you? She also needs to have people stop enabling her behavior like your mum. It's one thing to not drink or eat lunch meat to be in solidarity with you. It's a whole other thing to not let the woman carrying her child get off her feet. And now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation and what would you do in it? It's an incredibly complex one. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And our next story comes from a throwaway account. Am I the arsehole for interrupting my wife and apologizing to another parent on her behalf? My wife and I have a 10-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old son. My son is severely mentally challenged and in the special needs program at their elementary school. My wife is very attached to him and gets irrationally defensive whenever she feels that somebody is implying he's less than. My daughter had a sport event on Friday. Our family pulled up to the event with my wife in a foul mood. Our usual babysitter had cancelled, and my wife refused to just hire someone off the Thumbtack freelancing app for a few hours would be gone, since she couldn't leave her son with just anyone because he was special needs. She tried to strong-arm me into missing the event to babysit my son instead, but I had told her just because my daughter said she needed her mum in the bleachers for emotional support doesn't mean they could just exclude me from my child's event. As I said, my wife and son are very attached and codependent emotionally. My son practically can read her mind, and so he's more agitated than usual despite the fact that my wife tried to hide her, I feel unwarranted, frustration at me. We ended up sitting in a very isolated section of the bleachers. My son started acting up multiple times during the event. My wife had to take him outside to calm him down and then bring him back inside. The final time after she brought him back inside, I had moved briefly from where we were sitting to be closer to the front because I wanted to get some better footage of my daughter in action, and I wanted to say hi to a buddy of mine who was sitting near the front. I come back and my wife is glaring at me as my son begins wailing again. She says the mum to the far right of us is glaring at her. A half hour later, as we're walking out, the mum confronts my wife and said, as a mum, if your son can't behave, it's your responsibility to make sure he doesn't ruin the experience of everybody else. Her husband added, especially for the kids who do know how to behave. The woman threw her hands up and said, if that was my kid, the first sign of a tantrum, he would have been taken home. I saw my wife's eyes flashing and going into defensive mode. She started, excuse me, but... I knew this wasn't go well, so I cut in and said, you're right, our conduct tonight was disruptive and inappropriate. I apologize on behalf of my family. We are very embarrassed and will make better decisions next time. Then I walked away and my wife followed. She started seething at me and screaming at me that she wasn't going to say anything beyond politely informing them that our son was special needs and logistical problems regarding babysitting happened. Then she started blaming me for refusing to stay home alone with my son and sarcastically saying that they weren't even criticizing my parenting, but hers. Am I the arsehole for diffusing a situation in the best way possible? It started on a negative soon as you said, babysit your own child. I mean, come on, Dad, you muppet. And this post, it just comes across as me. I'll poor me in this situation when you basically did nothing the whole time. You refused to look after your child at home when, you know, your daughter wanted your mum there for emotional support. And you knew damn well that the son is attached to mum. So you didn't help in that situation, decided, oh, let's go anyway. You went there and you let the mum deal with your son all the time without helping at all, even though your daughter still wanted your mum's emotional support, not forgetting that. And then when she was out one time, you moved to the front. Let's face it, you went to see old mate or potentially just to avoid any embarrassment. And then you had the absolute cheek to cut your wife off when she was wrongly being attacked by some random strangers and you cut her off and apologize on her behalf. Yes, you're absolutely the arsehole in this situation. But Crash Cut says, I guess what's missing from this conversation is any indication that you're doing what's right for anyone other than yourself. Your daughter wanted her mum there. Your wife wanted to be there for her daughter. Your wife wanted to mind your son, not babysit. Is not babysitting when it's your child. Instead of leaving a special needs child with someone unknown off a freelancing app, and it sounds like you still didn't help at the event, and instead focused on shooting footage and saying hi to your buddy. You did absolutely nothing to help your wife and then told her off in public. I'm not surprised your wife and son are attached. You don't even treat him like your own damn child. Honestly, I can't find a single thing you've mentioned that isn't a massive arsehole move. You're the arsehole. Holy shit. And potentially Knox says you're the arsehole. One of you should have stayed with your son at home if you knew this was going to be a problem. From the sound of it, it should have been you. It's also concerning that you don't assist with calming your son at all. The woman and her husband were also rude beyond belief, and while I agree you didn't need to escalate the situation, not standing up for your wife and son was also not the way to handle it. Edited to add, it's not babysitting if it's your kid, it's parenting. Ensure Mum 4 says, you're the arsehole. Your son isn't embarrassing, you are. You didn't assist your wife at all with your son. You didn't offer to take him out and actually suggested hiring a stranger to watch your special needs child, or any child for that matter. A child who cannot tell you if someone hurt him, and then threw your wife under the bus and acted if you were not parents. If your child should have been taken home, then dad up and take the kid home. Instead, your wife does all the work while you chat with friends and take video. And then here a man says, you're the arsehole, you let a stranger insult your wife and kid and then apologize to the stranger. You cut your wife off when she was uttering to defend your son and herself, and now you can't see you did anything wrong. If I were your wife, I feel completely disrespected. And now I turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation, and what would you do if you was mum? Let me know in the comments below. And our next story is from Pangolin Throwaway. Am I the arsehole for telling my coworker I'm tired of hearing about her nerdy obsession? So I have a coworker, female 27, who is absolutely obsessed with Transformers. Yes, you read that right. She has a massive collection of action figures and frequently brings one or more of them to work to show off. She talks endlessly about the movies, cartoons, comics, video games to anyone who will stop long enough to listen. She writes a ridiculous amount of fanfic that she also has to talk about. Almost every vacation she takes revolves going to Transformers convention, etc. Most everyone else seems to think it's a fun personality quirk, or at least tolerates it, but it drives me bonkers because all she talks about, like, get a life. Last month, a number of us were discussing things we missed the most that were gone/delayed due to the pandemic. Most people brought up visiting family, going to the movies, etc. Guess what this coworker missed the most? Yep, her conventions, which had all been cancelled because apparently stuffing hundreds of nerds in a confined space isn't a good idea during a pandemic. I admit that I'd lost my shit at this point, and I told her, oh my god, will you shut up? Nobody cares about your obsession. Find another hobby, or just something else to talk about besides a stupid cartoon show and action figures. She climbed up and didn't speak to me for the rest of the day. Since then, I haven't heard her say a peep beyond work-related stuff, which is actually a relief. But other co-workers are saying I was the arsehole for telling her to shut up, and that they actually miss her ramblings about fictional robots. One of them even says I'm lucky this co-worker didn't report me to HR. I don't think what I said was HR worthy. If anything, I think I did everyone a favor by getting her to stop talking their ears off about something only she cares about. But I'm wondering if I could have worded it better. Am I the arsehole? Now let's instantly start off with those last few lines there where it said you think you've done them a favor by stopping her from talking about only she cares about. Clearly not, because you said it yourself that people are actually missing her ramblings about fictional robots. Now, I'm obviously going to be biased here because I love Transformers, and if I had something like that in the workplace that would just chew my ear off about talking all the geeky stuff Transformers, I'll be all over it. I'm a geek myself, but the language in this post about talking conventions, about stuffing geeks all in one place, it just, you're an arsehole. I don't like you. You're too judgmental, and you're an arsehole just for that. Guilty or innocent? Guilty. Feed them to the Shockticons. I'm sorry. Learner, but sick and tired says, you're the arsehole. What did I just read? The way you talk about your coworker shows the level of disdain you have for her. The language you use about her is downright disgusting. You all shed what you miss. When she shed, you judge, jury, and executioner. You decided her missing a convention is not worthy of your time, of you listening, and you probably executed her in a very mean-spirited way. This girl is amazing for even talking with you, purely professional stuff. I feel sorry for her. Who the fuck made you the judge of worthy hobbies and worthy of things to talk about? Who do you think you are? If you're not interested, do what any other mature adult would do in this situation. Tune her out and nod and move on. And Tyrannosaurus says, yeah, you're the arsehole. I get it's weird, but it's what she's passionate about. I feel the same way when people won't shut up about sports. And Trek Invite says that yes, you're the arsehole. She does have a life. You clearly don't, since you care more about what she enjoys than just doing your work. And Lord Wombat says you're the arsehole. Let her like/miss what she wants. She likely didn't care about what you were complaining about either, to be honest. That's not to mention your attitude towards Transformers. It seems rather unhealthy. And Clowns in My Pants says in quotes, yes, you read that right. And quotes again says, like, get a life. And it says, you're the arsehole for how you talk to her. You could just say she's obsessed with Transformers. Instead, you write an insulting manner and judge her over an interest. I get being irritated hearing about it, but the way you write about her, even in this post, makes you the arsehole. Now, I turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? As I said, I am biased, but what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Now, once again, guys, thank you for being here today. I hope you did enjoy today's stories. And if you did, you know what to do. Hit the like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too, as it hugely helps out our channel. A huge thank you for taking 20 minutes out of your day to be here. It's absolutely incredible, and I can never thank you enough for it. So I will see you in the next one. Much love, guys.